Hi guys. So today I have come up with a new service for comparison. Service name is load balancer. So you know what is a load balancer? If you take any architecture nowadays, the load balancer is a very common component which is being used in the architecture for high availability as well as a fault tolerant. Okay. So we'll talk about that service today. So let's begin with that. So if I talk about the Azure, in Azure, they have a load balancer as a service, as well as there is other services also available for load balancing purpose. So we'll take one service at a time and we'll compare that service with the other cloud as well. So load balancer is the internal load balancer. Mostly that is for that purpose it is used. So if you know about the OSI model, the Open System Interconnect, it's a networking model which is used for communication purpose. So there is a layer 4, which is we call transport layer. So all the communication happen on TCP UDP protocol. So for that communication on that layer, normally the Azure load balancer is being used, okay, to serve more traffic. Okay. Similarly, in AWS there has a network load balancer does a similar kind of function, and in GCP they have a network load balancing. So in that OSI layer, we also talk about a layer 7. So layer 7 is the application layer where it communicates with the internet as well. So for that layer, Azure and other vendor provide a different load balancer. So in Azure, they have a application gateway. So application gateway help you to serve the traffic coming from over the internet, as well as it has an inbuilt feature of the security. Okay, we'll talk about that as well. Similarly, in AWS, they have app load balancer. Again, it is used at a layer 7, does a similar kind of function. And in GCP, they have a HTTPS load balancer, okay, which also helps to serve traffic, internet traffic. And then we'll move to the next level right now. So now we in Azure, they have a traffic manager. So traffic manager is a global load balancer, which is used for your DNS based routing. So for take an example, you have two sites, one in India and other one in other country. Take us in Singapore. So that to do a load balancing between the two different sites, you use one global load balancer. For that purpose, normally they use a traffic manager only for DNS forwarding. If you have a requirement as a fast accelerating load balancer, then in that case you can go for the front door. Front door also does a similar kind of function, but it is not a DNS based routing. It does a IP based routing. Okay. So, but the good thing about front door is that it uses the Microsoft POP network, Microsoft Global POP network. So it is very fast. Okay, and it is also an inbuilt security feature. Okay. Similarly, if I compare SIM service in AWS, then AWS have a Route 53. Route 53 help you to do a global DNS forwarding or global DNS routing as well. Okay, this is available over here. In GCP, they don't have such kind of DNS based load balancing. In AWS, there are two more services. Normally, we have listed over here. One is the classic load balancer. It is again supports a layer 4, layer 7 load balancer, and they have also a gateway load balancer. So gateway load balancer is used for the private link connectivity. So if in AWS is a private link connection, which is and your third party service, third party vendor connect to your AWS services over the private link. In that case, you use the gateway load balancer. In Azure, there is no such kind of load balancer required as such, because your Azure load balancer help you to connect to the private link. Okay, so any customer uses the private link can connect to the Azure load balancer. Okay, so we talked about the load balancer services which is available into the cloud. The traffic director, again, it is nothing but your global load balancer, but it is a IP based load balancer. Okay. We'll move to next. Now we'll talk about the features of a load balancer. So the main feature of load balancer is the SSL offload. So you can install certificate into your load balancer, which provides you the security. Okay. In AWS also they provide SSL offload, they have their inbuilt certification manager. Also, you can use that to generate a certificate, and you can install that certificate, okay, on the load balancer. Similarly, in GCP also they have a SSL load balancer, okay, SSL offloading available over there. Now we'll talk about the security part. Okay, so WAF. So WAF is nothing but a web application firewall. So you need more security to your load balancer. Then this is the inbuilt feature provided by the Microsoft. When you configure the application gateway or front door, you can get this option to enable the WAF or to select the WAF. Okay, it can provide you the it can provide security from cross injection attack, SQL injection attack, or man-in-middle attacks. Different type of attacks it provides security. Okay, in AWS there is no inbuilt WAF available, but you can use the AWS WAF service, and that service you can integrate with your AWS load balancer. Similarly in GCP they don't have a inbuilt WAF available, but you can use a Cloud Armor service, which can help you to provide security to your load balancing. Okay. Now we'll move to the auto scaling. So auto scaling, again, it is a very important part here, because auto scaling will help you to handle the large request. So if there's a large request, then if you enable auto scaling behind the load balancer, then it does horizontal scaling. So more virtual machines get added to handle the large request. Okay. Similarly, this is a common feature. Hence, this feature is available in AWS as well as into the GCP as well. Okay. And then again, the common feature is sticky session. Okay. It is also important when any client connect to your load balancer or your application through load balancer, right? The request comes to your target group having the one virtual machine. Okay. So that virtual machine store the IP of that client machine. And when the next time client connect to the website through load balancer, the request comes to that first virtual machine which is served the request earlier. Okay, so this is how the session get maintained. So it is mostly IP based, IP affinity normally we call. Okay, similarly, this feature is also available in AWS and GCP as well. And then this is the next part about health probe. This is also important part. Health probe will help you to determine which are the servers in a target group is healthy. Okay, if any node goes down, then if any traffic coming to that unhealthy node, the health probe will inform to the load balancer, and load balancer redirect the traffic to the healthier node. So this is how there is no any drop of the traffic. Okay. Similarly, same function does by the AWS load balancer as well as GCP load balancer. Now we'll talk about the dual stack. So dual stack is nothing but IPv4, IPv6 support. But nowadays, a lot of applications require to support IPv4, IPv6. So nowadays, all the three cloud providers provide a dual stack support, so that the request can handle. If request comes on IPv4, IPv6, it is get handled through load balancer. Okay. So port forwarding again is a common feature. The port forwarding where the request comes from load balancer or the public IP, a request gets served and send it back to your target group. You have defined the forwarding rule for that. Similarly, GCP and AWS support that. Okay. Then we'll talk about the zone redundant. This is the additional feature. So if I want to improve the uptime of my load balancer, if I want to make the load balancer available between the multiple zones, okay, now it support up to three zones. So if I enable it, then if one zone goes down, my load balancer will be available in other two zones. Okay, the traffic will serve from that zone only. In AWS, they don't have such kind of as a AWS zone redundant feature, but they have a AWS global accelerator, which help you to improve the performance as well as they improve the high availability of your load balancer. Okay. In GCP, they don't have such kind of feature as such. Okay. So we talked about the features of the load balancer. Now we'll talk about the costing part. So costing is a very common part here. The costing is based on the number of forwarding rules and number of data process. Okay, so this is a common criteria or common parameters. Based on that, your costing is decided. Similarly, AWS also does the same, and GCP also does the same. Only thing which I have noticed in AWS is that AWS the costing they have mentioned as a load balancer capacity unit. So it contains your rules. It contains the data process. It also contains the number of connections. Okay, so based on that, the costing is decided. Okay, so all the all these three cloud provider provide the load balancer service. Okay, it is a PaaS-based service, right? But in the PaaS-based service, you have less control in your hand. But if you look for more control, then what is the option available? In that case, I can go with the open source, or I can go with a third party. So open source, like I would take example of Nginx. I can take example of HA proxy. So that kind of tools provide me the function of load balancer, and I can implement that into the cloud as well, and I can do the load high availability, and I can do the fault tolerance as well. Okay. Similarly, even if I don't want to go for open source, I can go with the third party like F5 or Barracuda. I can download the software from the marketplace and I can install on my machine. Okay, I can take the SaaS-based service of SaaS-based product as well, based on my requirement, and through that I can configure the load balancer. Okay, so that is also option also given by your cloud provider. So it is up to you. The way you design your architecture, based on that you can select the load balancer. Okay, so this is how I concluded my session. I hope you got to know about the load balancer and its features and pricing and what are the options available with you. Okay, so thank you for watching my video. Okay. Bye bye.